Before we start this story, drop a comment and let me know what city you're watching from, and don't forget to rate it from 0 to 10 at the end. Trust me, this one will take you on a journey. The snow fell in thick, heavy flakes as Chloe stepped out of her car onto the icy gravel path. Her boots crunched against the frozen ground, and her breath puffed out in little white clouds. She had been dreaming of this weekend for months. No emails, no meetings, no boss, just her, a book, and the silence of the woods. She dragged her suitcase up the wooden stairs of the small cabin she had booked through her company's travel portal. A place called Whispering Pines tucked deep in the mountains outside Denver. It was supposed to be her escape. She turned the key, pushed the door open, and froze. A man stood by the fireplace. His back was to her, but she knew that posture anywhere. The broad shoulders, the quiet confidence, the way he held a coffee mug like it was a throne. Nathan Cole, her billionaire CEO, the man who never smiled in meetings, the man whose presence made the entire office hold its breath. He turned around and his eyes widened. Chloe. Her voice came out sharper than she intended. "What are you doing here?" "I booked this cabin," he said, his voice calm but confused, "through my assistant same weekend." Chloe felt her stomach drop. A double booking, of course. Outside, the wind picked up. Snow began falling faster, blanketing the trees and the narrow road behind her. Nathan glanced out the window. "The storm is getting worse. You should come inside." She wanted to argue, wanted to turn around and drive back down the mountain, but the road was already disappearing under a thick white layer. She stepped inside, dragging her suitcase behind her. The warmth of the fire hit her skin, and the smell of pine and coffee wrapped around her like a blanket. Nathan closed the door behind her. "I'll take the guest room upstairs. You take the one near the kitchen. We'll figure this out in the morning." Chloe nodded, unable to find words. She rolled her suitcase down the hallway and into a small, cozy room with a patchwork quilt on the bed. She sat on the edge and stared at the wall. Why him? Of all people, why him? She had worked at Cole Industries for 2 years. Nathan Cole was a legend in the tech world. Brilliant, ruthless, and completely unreadable. People whispered about him in elevators and avoided him at company parties. She had always stayed quiet, professional, invisible, and now she was trapped in a cabin with him during a blizzard. She changed into warm leggings and an old sweatshirt and wandered back to the main room. Nathan was sitting by the fire, reading a book. His sleeves were rolled up, and without his suit, he looked different, younger, softer, almost human. He looked up, hungry. Chloe blinked a little. "There's soup on the stove." He nodded toward the kitchen. "I made enough for 2. She hesitated, then sat on the edge of the armchair. "You cook?" His mouth twitched into something almost a smile. "You sound surprised." "I didn't think CEOs knew how to hold a spoon unless it was made of gold." That earned a real smile, brief but warm. They ate in near silence. The soup was good. Hearty lentils, carrots, herbs she couldn't name, homemade. When she finished, she curled up in the armchair and watched the flames dance. "Why here?" she asked. "Why this place?" Nathan stared into the fire. "My father used to bring us here before things got complicated." "Complicated how?" He didn't answer right away. The fire popped. Snow hammered against the windows. Let's just say family doesn't always mean safe. Chloe felt something shift in the room. A thread pulled tight, finally loosening. She looked at him closely for the first time. Not the CEO, not the public figure. Just a man with tired eyes and a heavier heart than he let on. "Sorry," she said softly. "I didn't mean to dig." "It's okay," he said. "No one asks." "Not really." He turned to her. "And you? Why did you run off to the mountains?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. "Because I was tired of pretending. Because the city made me feel invisible. Because I needed to breathe." She settled for B, "because I needed quiet." They sat like that for a while. Just the fire, the storm. 2 strangers who weren't strangers at all. Later, when Chloe finally stood to go to bed, Nathan said quietly, "You don't have to be so guarded with me, you know." She stopped in the hallway. You're my boss. I'm a man in a cabin, he said, just like you're a woman in one. Chloe didn't look back, but her cheeks burned all the way to her room. She shut the door and locked it just in case. Outside, the wind howled louder than ever, and inside something had started. Small and fragile, but real. The storm didn't let up all night. Chloe tossed in bed, listening to the wooden beams creak. Her phone had no signal, not even a bar. She tried reading, then scrolling through old photos, but her mind kept drifting back to the firelight and the man sitting across from her. By morning, the world outside had disappeared. Snow piled high, swallowing the porch, the trees, the road. Chloe stared out the window, her heart sinking. Nathan appeared behind her with 2 mugs of coffee. His hair was damp, his jaw shadowed with stubble. He handed her one without speaking. "We're stuck," she said flatly. "Looks like it. No phone, no internet. No way out, not unless you have snowshoes and a death wish." He grinned slightly. She rolled her eyes but smiled just a little. They spent the morning cleaning the kitchen, organizing shelves, checking the pantry. There was enough food for the weekend, barely canned goods, crackers, dried pasta. It would do. At noon, Chloe found an old board game on a dusty shelf, Scrabble. She raised an eyebrow at him, up for a challenge. Nathan leaned back on the couch, arms crossed. "You sure you want to lose to your boss on your weekend off?" "I'm very competitive." "Good," he said, "so am I." The game started simple, light teasing strategic moves, but by the 3rd round something had shifted. She played the word shield, and Nathan paused. "You ever feel like you walk around with one of those all the time?" he asked. "Like you're always protecting something even when you're not sure what anymore." Chloe stared at the board. The tiles blurred for a second. "Yeah," she whispered. "I know exactly what that feels like." He didn't push, he just nodded as if saying, "Me too." They played 3 more games. She won the last one. By afternoon, the snow turned into icy rain, pelting the windows. They moved back to the fire. He made tea. She found a blanket. It was quiet, but not awkward. A kind of peace had settled between them. So Nathan said, "Eventually tell me something real about you. Something I wouldn't know from a resume." Chloe hesitated, then smiled. "I used to sing, like, seriously wanted to be on Broadway." "No way." "Oh yeah, jazz musicals. Even wrote a few songs, but life got practical." He tilted his head. "And now you write email campaigns for vacuum cleaners." "Exactly," she laughed. "Dreams really do come true." Nathan chuckled, then leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Why did you stop?" She shrugged, but her voice dropped. "My dad got sick. Mom left. I had to help out. Music didn't pay the bills." Nathan didn't speak right away then. Softly, "I'm sorry." She nodded. "Me too. But I don't regret it. I just missed the version of me who believed in bigger things." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I used to draw." Chloe blinked. "What, sketch paint?" "Even before I took over the company, Nathan Cole, the CEO, painted." He chuckled. "I was a kid. My mom said I had an artist's heart. Then my father found out. I skipped finance club for an art class. He took all my sketchbooks and threw them out." Chloe's stomach twisted. "He what?" "He told me to stop wasting time. Said I'd never survive being soft." The fire cracked sharply. "That's why you're always so precise," she said quietly. "Like you're measuring every move." He looked at her, then really looked. For a moment, neither of them were their titles, just 2 people with forgotten parts of themselves tucked away. "I guess you're not what I expected," he murmured. "And what did you expect?" "Someone who would freeze the second something went off script." She smiled faintly. "I'm used to chaos." Their eyes held. The air felt warmer. Then the power went out. All at once, darkness. The heater stopped. The lights blinked off. They both jumped. Chloe groaned. "You've got to be kidding." Nathan stood, already moving toward the utility closet. "Stay here. I'll check the breakers." She followed anyway, grabbing a flashlight from the drawer. They found the panel. All switches off. Nathan flipped them. Nothing. This isn't just the breakers, he muttered. Something must have frozen outside. No heater, no Wi-Fi, and now no power, she said. Is this your idea of a romantic weekend? He glanced sideways. Depends on who I'm stuck with. She laughed, caught off guard. So did he. And for the first time, it didn't feel weird. It felt easy. They lit candles, bundled up in blankets. The fire became their only heat source, their only light. And slowly the night crept in. They sat closer than before, shoulders brushing, conversation turning soft. Chloe looked at the flames. Funny how quiet it gets without everything else. Yeah, Nathan said, makes it harder to hide. She looked at him. You hiding something? He didn't answer right away. Then maybe. The fire popped again, sending sparks upward. Outside the storm raged on, and inside something was melting. But just as it felt safe to settle in that quiet moment, a sound shattered it. A voice message, loud and distorted, crackled from Nathan's phone. One he must have downloaded before the signal cut out. It was a woman's voice, cold, sharp, unmistakably familiar. Nathan, you can't keep ignoring this, eh? If you don't end it with that girl in marketing, the board will find out and you will lose everything. Chloe froze. Nathan's face went pale. The silence that followed was heavier than the storm. Her heart dropped into her stomach. She stared at the phone as if it had teeth. Nathan scrambled to mute it, his hand shaking slightly, but the damage was done. The message had echoed through the cabin like a gunshot. Her voice was steady when she finally spoke. Was that about me? Nathan didn't answer. That silence said everything. Chloe stood slowly, the blanket slipping off her shoulders. You need to explain what that was. Now. He ran a hand through his hair, face tense, jaw clenched. It's not what it sounds like. It sounds like someone thinks there's something between us, she said, her voice rising, and that you're hiding it from your board. There isn't, Nathan said quickly. I mean, there wasn't. At least not before now. Her chest ached. Before now. Nathan took a step toward her, then stopped. That was Vanessa, my ex. She's on the board. We dated when we were younger before I took over the company. She's bitter, controlling. She saw me talking to you a few times at work and started making assumptions. You never said anything because nothing was happening. I didn't want to drag you into it. Chloe folded her arms, trying to hold herself together, so instead you let her talk about me like some office fling. No. His voice cracked barely above a whisper. I tried to protect you from all this from her. The wind howled again, but it was nothing compared to the storm now rising between them. I thought this weekend was an accident, she said, voice breaking. But now I'm wondering if you wanted to be here. If this was your way of... No, he said firmly. I didn't know you'd be here. I swear I wouldn't do that. She stared at him. His face was open, vulnerable in a way she had never seen before. His eyes searched hers like he needed her to believe him, like he couldn't stand the idea of her not believing him, but her mind was spinning. Every look he'd given her at the office, every pause, every quiet moment by the fire, was it all real or just another power play? I should sleep, she said, finally backing away. Chloe, don't. She turned, walked to her room, and shut the door quietly, but she didn't sleep, couldn't. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the storm. Every sound outside felt like a reflection of what was unraveling inside her. The next morning, sunlight poured in through the frost-covered windows. The storm had passed, but the snow still covered everything like a thick white blanket. Still no signal. Chloe emerged from her room with dark circles under her eyes. Nathan was already awake, sitting by the fire, staring into it like it held answers. Neither of them spoke. She poured herself a mug of tea and sat across the room from him. Finally, he said, I didn't sleep either. She didn't respond. I kept thinking about what you said and how it must have sounded, that message. She stared into her mug. What does she mean by you lose everything? What exactly is she threatening? Nathan sighed. The board has always been cautious about my decisions. They think I'm too young, too emotional. Dating someone in the company, Especially someone like you would give them ammunition to push me out. Someone like me, she asked sharply. I didn't mean it like that, he said quickly. I mean someone not at the top. Someone who actually works, who matters. She blinked. That wasn't the answer she expected. I've seen what they do to people, he continued. They don't care about who you are, just your title, your leverage, your last name. He looked at her eyes raw. You're different. You see people, you listen. That scares them. And it scares me, too. Why, she asked quietly. Because I care, he said, and I didn't plan to. The words hung between them. Chloe swallowed hard. What exactly are you saying? Nathan stood, walked over, and knelt beside her chair. That this wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. And if I could choose between keeping my title or risking something real with you, I'd choose you. Her throat tightened. You don't even know me. He gave a small, pained smile. Then let me. She looked into his eyes. No walls, no games. And suddenly the version of Nathan Cole she knew from the office felt like a stranger. This man, warm, vulnerable, honest, was someone else entirely. Someone real. Chloe stood slowly, heart racing. I need a walk. She opened the door and stepped into the snow. The cold hit her cheeks fresh and biting. She trudged down the trail behind the cabin, her boots sinking deep with each step. The trees sparkled with frost. The sky was a soft, forgiving blue, but her mind was anything but clear. She thought about her life, how carefully she had built it, how much effort she had put into being invisible, professional, untouchable, and now, a billionaire who'd never looked her way suddenly wanted something real. Footsteps, Nathan. He didn't speak right away, just stood beside her in the snow, breathing hard from the cold and the effort. Why did you follow me? She asked softly. Because I don't want to pretend anymore, he said, not with you. She looked at him, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm scared. So am I, he said. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. The wind rustled the trees, gently brushing snow from the branches. The world was still, as if waiting for her answer. And in that pause, she reached out and took his hand just once and didn't let go. But as they turned back toward the cabin, a new noise echoed in the distance. A mechanical hum. Chloe froze. Do you hear that? Nathan squinted toward the road. Then he cursed under his breath. A snowplow. Relief washed over them, mixed with something sharper, reality. The way back was open now, but neither of them knew what that meant anymore. By midday, the plow had cleared enough of the road to make it passable. The snow was still thick in parts, but the silence of being completely cut off was gone. Chloe stood at the window, arms folded, watching the tire tracks stretch back towards the world it left behind. It had only been 2 days, but it felt like they'd lived an entire life inside that cabin. Nathan stood a few steps behind her. I'll call a driver to come pick us up. Chloe nodded, her heart suddenly heavier than the snow outside. Neither of them moved. The bags were already packed. The fire was dying. The cabin that had once felt too close now felt like the last safe place on earth. I don't want to go back and pretend, Chloe said, her voice low. Nathan took a slow breath. You won't have to. She turned to face him. How can you say that in the office? You're someone else. Cold, distant. You have to be. I'm tired of that version of me, he said. Maybe I needed this weekend to remember who I was before all of it. She looked away. What if that version of you doesn't survive out there? He stepped closer. Then let's find out together. There was something raw in his voice, not a grand declaration, not some cinematic promise, just truth, just him, and that scared her more than anything else. The ride back to the city was quiet. Chloe sat by the window of the sleek black SUV, watching the trees slip by, her breath fogging up the glass. Nathan sat beside her, hands folded, staring straight ahead. Neither said a word, but both of them felt it. The space between them was filled with everything unsaid. The warmth of shared soup, the weight of old wounds, the moment in the snow when their hands found each other like instinct. 2 weeks passed, work resumed, and the world moved on like nothing had ever happened. Chloe was back in her cubicle, back in her routine. Emails, deadlines, strategy calls. All the same faces, all the same rhythms. Only now, every time she walked past the executive floor, her chest tightened. Nathan was different too. More focused, sharper, but his eyes lingered on her in meetings. His tone softened when he addressed her, and twice she caught him looking at her like he was remembering something that made his breath catch. But they never spoke outside work, not once, and it killed her. Until one morning she arrived at her desk and found a small white envelope. No name, no stamp, just her initials written in neat cursive. Inside, a simple note. If we were strangers again and I met you at that cabin, I'd still fall for you. N. Chloe sat still, her hand trembling. Part of her wanted to run to him that second to throw caution into the wind, but something held her back. Not fear, not pride, something deeper. A need to know what this really was, if it was real. Beyond the storm, beyond the fireplace, beyond the snow. That evening she left the office without saying goodbye, and that night she sat on her apartment balcony watching the city lights flicker. The cold breeze on her skin reminded her of the mountains, of a fire, of the way he'd looked at her when the rest of the world disappeared. The next morning something changed. HR sent out a company-wide email. Vanessa Lynn resigns from Coal Industries Board effective immediately. Chloe stared at the screen. She reread it 3 times. Then her phone buzzed. A single message from Nathan. It's done. I chose what mattered. Now I'm just hoping you still do too. She stared at the message for what felt like forever, and then she replied, "Come find me, but not at work." That night she waited outside a small cafe near her apartment. It was quiet, mostly empty. A few tables with couples leaning in close. Fairy lights strung above the entrance swayed gently in the wind, and then he appeared. No suit, no driver, just Nathan, hair slightly wind-blown, jacket open, and in his eyes not the intensity of a man trying to win, but the softness of someone ready to risk everything. He walked straight to her, no hesitation. They stood face to face, everything in the world fading around them. Chloe looked up at him, so no more hiding. He shook his head. Never again. She searched his face like reading a page she already knew by heart. And the company. He smiled, eyes warm. Let them watch. I'm done choosing power over people. She exhaled slowly. Good. Then for the first time, outside the snow, outside the storm, outside the safety of that wooden cabin, she leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was quiet. Real, like a promise whispered between 2 hearts that had been waiting too long. When they pulled apart, Chloe smiled. Guess fate knows how to make a booking mistake after all. He chuckled, best glitch of my life. They turned toward the cafe together, fingers brushing, but just as they stepped inside, Chloe's phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. Careful who you trust. Not everyone's finished playing the game. She stopped in her tracks, breath catching. Nathan saw the look on her face. What is it? She showed him the screen. His expression darkened. The storm might be over, but some shadows don't melt with the snow. Chloe stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Careful who you trust. Not everyone's finished playing the game. No name, no context, just a warning. Short, cold, and unsettling. Nathan took her phone, gently reading it again. His face changed, not with fear, but with recognition. He knew something. Nathan, she said quietly, do you know who sent this? He exhaled slowly, then looked her in the eyes. I think I have an idea. Is it Vanessa? Could be, but she resigned. She's out. I made sure of it. Chloe shook her head, heart pounding. Then who would want to send me something like this? And why now? Nathan hesitated. The truth is, I've made enemies. People who don't like that. I've been shifting the company in a new direction, cutting out toxic leadership, pushing for transparency. Some of the old guard aren't thrilled about it. So this could be someone trying to scare me off, she said. Or trying to scare us, Nathan replied. Whatever this is becoming between us, someone doesn't want it to grow. Chloe looked down at her phone. The message felt more invasive the longer she held it. A digital whisper that knew too much. Nathan stepped closer. Look, I know this is a lot, and you didn't ask for any of it, but I meant what I said. I'm not hiding anymore. She searched his face, his openness, his calm. The way he stood there, ready to protect, not possess. I believe you, she said softly, but I won't lie. It still scares me. He nodded. Then let's take it one day at a time. Over the next few days, things shifted. They didn't tell anyone at work, not yet, but there were signs, small things. A glance in the hallway, a moment longer in the break room, a post-it, note tucked behind her monitor that simply read, "Coffee after 6," in Nathan's unmistakable handwriting. But the messages didn't stop. Every few nights another one. Always vague, always from a blocked number. He's not telling you everything. Don't trust what feels easy. You weren't his first. You want to be his last. Each one chipped at her peace like a fingernail peeling paint. She didn't tell Nathan about every message, not because she didn't trust him, but because part of her didn't trust herself, didn't trust the ache in her chest, the way her doubts whispered at night when she replayed every word, every look, every pause. Then one evening, she got a message that stopped her cold. Check room 47, the Edison Hotel, Friday night, 8 p.m., if you want the truth. It was Thursday. Chloe stared at the screen for a long time. Then she slipped the phone into her bag and said nothing. The next day felt normal. Too normal. Nathan stopped by her desk, leaned in slightly. Still on for tonight. She forced a smile. Of course. He smiled and walked away. She stared after him, heart pounding. She knew she should tell him, but something told her she needed to see it for herself. Friday night, 7:55 p.m., she stood outside room 47 in the Edison Hotel. The hallway was quiet, carpeted dim. Her hand hovered over the door. What was she expecting? A scandal, a secret life, another woman, old files, or nothing at all, just a cruel prank. She took a breath and knocked. No answer. She knocked again, heart racing. Still nothing. Her hand reached for the doorknob. It was unlocked. The door creaked open. The room was empty. No lights, on no bags, no one inside, except one thing. A manila envelope on the bed, her name written across the front. She stepped in slowly and picked it up. Inside, photos, dozens. Chloe stared, breath catching. They were of her and Nathan at the cabin by the fire, holding hands in the snow, at the cafe, on her balcony, private moments, intimate, candid. Someone had been watching them. She dropped the photos, hands trembling, and that's when she heard the door click shut behind her. She spun around. The room was empty, the hallway silent. Whoever had left those photos had been close, and they wanted her to know it. Back at her apartment, she locked every bolt, pulled the curtains tight, and sat on the floor with the envelope in her lap. Her phone buzzed again. One more message. Still feel like this is real. This time she didn't cry. She got up, grabbed her keys, and went straight to Nathan's building. He opened the door, looking surprised, then concerned. Chloe, what happened? She walked past him without a word, dropped the envelope on his counter, and turned. Someone's watching us, Nathan. He opened the envelope, flipped through the photos. His face went pale. This isn't just corporate politics, she said. This is personal, and whoever it is, they've been close since the cabin, maybe even before. He stared at the photos like they were knives. I'm calling a private investigator, he said immediately. I'll pay whatever it takes. We're going to find out who's behind this. We, she repeated, searching his face. He looked at her, eyes fierce and unwavering. Yes, we. I'm not leaving you to handle this alone. She felt the tears sting behind her eyes, but not from fear. From the strange, fierce relief of being chosen, not protected, not pitied, but stood with. Then he added softer, but if you want to walk away from all this from me, I'll understand. She stepped closer. I'm not going anywhere. He exhaled slowly and pulled her into his arms, and this time the quiet wasn't a storm waiting to hit it. It was a shelter. But just before sleep, took them Chloe whispered into the dark, "Whoever this is, they knew how to find me, not you me." Nathan didn't respond right away, then quietly, "That's what scares me most." The next few days blurred. Nathan made good on his promise, hired a private investigator, increased security on both their apartments, and had Chloe's phone swept for spyware. She hated the intrusion, but more than that, she hated the growing feeling in her gut. This wasn't about Nathan anymore. It was about her. One morning, Chloe found herself staring at her reflection in the mirror, really looking at her eyes, the lines at the corners, the weight of everything she hadn't said aloud, who had been watching her, who wanted to make her doubt what they had. And then it clicked, not who had the power to do this, but who cared enough to. Later that day, Nathan came into her office quietly. "The PI found something. He wants to meet you. Should come." They met at a quiet diner in Midtown. The investigator, a calm, middle-aged man with gray at his temples, slid a folder across the table. "I traced the messages and the envelope." Chloe reached for it with trembling fingers. Inside were phone records, access logs, surveillance captures from the hotel lobby, and one name circled in red, Olivia D. Costa. Chloe blinked. Her voice came out small. That's not possible." Nathan leaned in. "Who is she?" Chloe was still staring at the name like it would disappear if she just denied it hard enough. "She was my best friend," she whispered. "In college, we were roommates. We did everything together." The PI continued gently. "Her name showed up in the guest log of the Edison Hotel 3 days before that envelope was found. The messages came from a proxy server linked to an apartment in her name." Chloe's voice cracked. "We haven't talked in years. Why?" Nathan asked why. Chloe swallowed. "We were both auditioning for a performing arts grant. Only one slot left. I got it." She looked down at her hands. "She never forgave me." That night, Nathan drove her to the address the PI provided, a quiet brownstone in Brooklyn. Chloe stood on the sidewalk for a long time before finally walking up the steps. Nathan stayed behind, giving her space. Olivia opened the door after the third knock. She looked almost the same. Tired eyes, dark hair pulled into a tight bun mouth, a little too tight at the corners, but her face froze when she saw Chloe. "Wow, Olivia said I was wondering when you'd show up." Chloe stepped inside. "Why?" Olivia gave a short laugh. "You're not even going to pretend you don't know why." "I don't." "You got everything, Chloe. Back then and now, you were always the girl people wanted. You lit up the room and I was just the shadow behind you." "That's not true." Olivia's smile was bitter. "Nathan Cole, of all the men. You really thought I wouldn't notice you walking into that office acting like you were nobody when I know exactly what you're capable of." Chloe stepped back. "You followed me. I watched you settle, hide, and then finally win again." Olivia's eyes shimmered. "You got him, you got everything, and no one even knew your name." Chloe's heart cracked. "So you sent those messages, the photos." "I didn't want to hurt you," Olivia said, suddenly tired. "I just wanted you to see what it's like to be doubted, to feel invisible." Chloe's voice broke. "You were never invisible. I would have given that scholarship up in a heartbeat if I'd known how much it cost you. But you never told me. You just disappeared." Olivia looked away. Silence stretched between them. Then Chloe stepped closer. "You're right, Olivia. I did hide for years because I was afraid of my own light, afraid of what it cost to shine. But that weekend," she stopped. "No, that moment. It reminded me that some things are worth the risk." Olivia's eyes filled. She blinked fast, but the tears slipped through anyway. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I am too," Chloe said. They stood there surrounded by everything unsaid. Forgiveness didn't come in a single moment. But maybe it started there. When Chloe returned to the car, Nathan didn't say anything. He just looked at her, really looked. Well, he asked softly. She didn't smile, not yet, but her voice had clarity in it again. He reached for her hand. "You okay?" "I will be." A week passed. The photos stopped. The messages, too. Olivia sent an apology one line at a time. They weren't friends again. Not like before, but something began to heal in the space between them. And Chloe. She started to live, not just exist. She signed up for an open mic night at a local jazz lounge. The first time in years. Her hand shook the entire time, but she sang. And when she finished, Nathan stood and clapped like it was a sold-out concert. She let herself laugh again, speak up in meetings, take up space, and she let herself be loved. Not in a fairy tale kind of way, in a real messy earned kind of way. One night, months later, they returned to the mountains, not the same cabin but close. They stood outside on a porch in the cold, wrapped in blankets in memory. Nathan looked at her with that quiet gaze he always saved for her. "If someone had told me the storm would bring me you," she smiled, "I wouldn't have believed it either." He kissed her then, not to prove anything, not to seal a deal, just to say I'm here, and finally so was she. The cabin was different this time. Not as big, not as perfect, but it didn't matter. There were still pine trees whispering in the wind, a fire crackling inside, and 2 coffee mugs sitting on the porch railing, steaming, waiting. Nathan stood behind Chloe, arms wrapped around her waist, chin resting lightly on her shoulder. They watched the snow fall together in soft, heavy flakes, the kind that made the world quiet without asking permission. "How many months has it been?" she asked softly. "Since the storm." She nodded. 6, give or take. "Feels like a lifetime." He kissed the side of her head, or the start of one. She smiled, leaning into him. "It's funny. That weekend, I kept wishing to be alone. All I wanted was silence, peace. And now I want your voice in the silence, your breathing while I sleep. The weight of your hand finding mine without needing words." He turned her gently to face him. "I've never been good with words, Chloe." She tilted her head. "Could have fooled me." He smiled, brushing her hair behind her ear. "I still remember that first night. You were standing by the fire, arguing about soup." "Best soup I've ever had," she said. "You didn't say that then." "I was trying to hate you," she whispered. "It didn't work." His eyes softened. "I was trying to hide from you. That didn't work either." They stood like that for a while. 2 people who had carried the weight of too many lonely years. 2 people who had mistaken silence for safety and realized too late that love wasn't the absence of chaos. It was the person who made the chaos worth surviving. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something small in velvet. Chloe's breath caught, but when he opened the box, it wasn't a ring. It was a key. She blinked. "What's this?" "To my place," he said. "The real one. The one where I leave dishes in the sink and burn toast and walk around barefoot at midnight trying to write ideas in my notes app." She laughed. "So, not the one with the glass elevator and the robot vacuum." "No," he said. "The one with a couch big enough for 2 people who sometimes fight and always make up." Her voice cracked Nathan. He held up a hand. "No pressure, no timeline, just a step forward, if you want it." She stared at the key, and suddenly she saw it all. Sunday mornings, shared coffee mugs, arguments over which takeout place to order, from kisses in the kitchen, music echoing through the hall at home, made not of walls, but of understanding. Chloe looked up at him. Then she slipped the key into her coat pocket and stood on her toes to kiss him. Not like in the movies, like someone who had finally come home. The next morning, they made breakfast together, burned eggs, too much toast, laughter spilling out of the windows. And later, while cleaning up, Chloe stopped in the middle of the kitchen, spoon in hand. Nathan looked at her. "What?" She tilted her head. "You know I never answered your question." He leaned on the counter. "Which one?" "That first night when you asked why I came to the cabin." He smiled. "You said you needed quiet." "I lied," she said softly. "I didn't need quiet. I needed to be seen." Nathan crossed the room, took the spoon from her hand and set it down. Then he cupped her face and said the words she hadn't known she'd been aching to hear for years. "I see you, Chloe." And this time, she didn't look away. Later, as the snow melted and the trees shook off winter's weight, they packed up the car and drove down the mountain. Two people who had walked into a storm as strangers and walked out of it as something more. Not perfect, but real. And sometimes real is exactly what the heart's been waiting for. Before we say goodbye, please don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10 and leave a comment letting me know what city you're watching from. I hope you enjoyed this journey of storm secrets and second chances.